Welcome to Cooking the Books, the food and hospitality podcast discussing all aspects of the industry. We interview chefs, butchers, brewers, winemakers, restaurateurs, restaurant managers, and we talk about how they got to this point, through the good times and the bad, and what they've got planned for the future. This is Cooking the Books. This week on the podcast, we had hospitality royalty, Chef Ian Curley, former head chef of The Point at Albert Park and the European in the CBD, both here in Melbourne. He was classically trained in the kitchens of London's finest. He now has his own restaurant called the French Saloon, also Kirk's Wine Bar, as well as a consultancy company called Exec Chef. Ian was part of the Brit Pack that come to Australia in the 90s from the UK, which changed the culinary scene forever. I really feel like Ian is very proud of where he comes from, but equally as proud of what he's achieved, only rightly so. After 35 years in the kitchen, he's looking to step away from the past to spend more time with his wife and children. It was fantastic to sit down and talk to Ian. He's old school, which I love. Straight talking and you know where you stand. But equally, he realises that he's got to move with the times, which is what keeps him so relevant today. He's a great guy who really believes in giving back. I hope everyone enjoys this. This week, as always, we are brought to you by City Larder, the charcuterie specialists, specialising in terrines, pâtés and rillettes. City Larder are now taking on new stockists in the build-up to Christmas. If you're interested in stocking Australia's finest charcuterie in your retail store or food service business, you can get in touch with Rebecca via the website or social media. Now, over to the show. Ian, thank you very much for doing this.
Robbie, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, mate.
How'd you go last night?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
What'd you eat?
We had, I tell you what, I thought was the highlight for me was the duck. We had the duck cassoulet, it was awesome. I tell you what was awesome as well, the service. The room's fantastic. The service was great. Really friendly, not over the top.
Good. It's got a good energy, and it's the whole thing about that saloon type of thing. And I know it sounds, people go, why'd you call it the saloon? Because it should be something relaxed where you walk in, you go, hey, how you going? But everybody knows and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was. But you know as well, I got off the bus on Lonsdale. I think it was on Lonsdale. Come down that
bus.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so northern. I was talking to Don. We had a dinner with Donovan Cook last week, and he was talking so Hull, and I was like, mate, you northerners, you just don't get it, do you? The bus. If you said to anybody, I got off the bus in Australia, go, the what?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. But then we kept on going on Lonsdale, hung a left and come down that alley, you know. Yeah. And like the smell of prawns. I was like, am I in Spain? I thought I was in Cadiz or something.
It's a good one, Hardware Lane. It's getting better and better.
What's it called?
Hardware Lane.
Hardware Lane,
good. So we're very lucky to have that corner spot. And that was the reason. When I was at the European, it was always to be, I needed something to lock me in for the rest of my cooking days, because I thought I was going to be at the European a while. So 5 years we've been looking for a space, and after 5 years we found that. So it's taken a couple of years to get it up to running, but now I always said I wanted a pub, a wine bar, or a restaurant, and luckily I got all three next door to each other. So I'm blessed there. Yeah. So I love it.
It was a phenomenal that feeling of walking down, and it was the first warm day we've had really yesterday. It was just started coming through.
Good energy, and Melbourne. So once the finals are on, and because the end of football always signifies the start of the races, and then the whole of Melbourne starts picking up again because the football's finished, and as soon as Richmond or Collingwood that go out, like everybody says, okay, we're going to spend our money anywhere else anyway. It's good.
But again, the food was fantastic, and it was beautiful. What's the? I can't remember what it's called, and it's a bit silly, but the the large profiterole.
Yeah, this Grand Choux.
Yeah,
good, huh?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, my chef there, Todd, and the crew, all of them themselves, but Todd especially, they do that. And for us, it's more about you want to have a bit of fun with your food as well. This food, they're so serious. A lot of places are so serious. I was listening to one of your podcasts about the guy who was over at Noma, and he's talking about stuff, and I'm like, I've been cooking 35 years. There's stuff there I've never even heard of. You kind of go, wow, that's a different level of intensity. Yet one of my great friends, Fergus from St. John, we sit and get drunk, and then he takes it to the other level where it's like the simplicity of like boiling a ham hock, and you go, Well, there you go.
Yeah,
How good is
dollop
that?
of mustard or something.
That's it. You kind of
Yeah.
go, well, so the great parameters of what our career is, you kind of go, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
for sure, 100%. I couldn't
yeah,
agree with you more.
yeah.
Horses for courses.
Well,
isn't
I'm
it?
glad you had a good night.
Yeah, it was
you know?
phenomenal.
That's it.
Listen, I want to get straight into this
Sure.
and ask you straight up, what makes a good chef?
I think there's a misconception about what chefs are. I mean, I see this, and especially with chefs who write books and stuff like that, and which is not to say it's bad that they write books, but I always look at people who turn around and like write books about their philosophy and stuff like that. I mean, they're chefs. I mean, at the end of the day, okay, Reni Redzepi can write a book, and you kind of go, okay, trying to get inside his mind and stuff like that. But I see books on shelves about people talking about their career and their struggle, and I'm like, I don't know. To me, it doesn't really work like that. You never go into college knowing how to cook. So you go to college, like we do in Britain. You go to college. Yeah. You're as green as everybody else. The only reason I went to college was it was kind of like a social thing. I thought I was hopeless at school. I'd already been to a young offenders prison, and I thought I want to get away from this. So for me, it was like I wanted to be equal to the middle class kids who were at school and stuff like that. And once we put the white jacket on, I was the same as them. It wasn't like I was poor or they were rich. It was like we're all sort of idiots together, if you like.
Yeah, yeah.
So but you're not trained across everything. It used to be that you could just cook and it was okay. You get a review and everybody was happy, and people used to say, oh, you know, good restaurant, and the reviewers would send people into your restaurant. Well, now it's all changed now with social media and the like. So a good chef these days needs to know his accounting, needs to understand how to deal with staff, and also how to deal with the everyday trials and tribulations of what's happening out there at the moment, because, you know, you can't be that person that you were 15 years ago or even 10 years ago. I mean, because it's all changed.
The culture, you mean?
Oh, incredible. Yeah. I mean, I look back on the things that I did when I was at places like Rhubarb's or at The Point, when I was a completely different person to what I am now. And I think it all comes down to kids. And I say it all the time now, is like, you cannot go in and like give it to somebody about poached eggs and like overcooking a piece of salmon if you've been dancing to the Wiggles with your kids in the morning. So it doesn't traverse. I don't know how.
It's someone else's kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's someone else's baby. That's the way I look at it. Everyone now.
Yeah, and so, I mean, and my kids have incredibly mellowed me out from the simple fact that, like, you get that different kind of patience now, because, like, I'll say, there'll be some mornings when I'll say good morning to the kids, they don't speak to me. Because, you know, they want to speak to their mum, and you kind of go, now, if I was thin-skinned, you go, oh, you know what, why am I doing all this for? I just go, oh, well, it is what it is. And then I think my industry has given that to me, where the industry is sort of, because you kind of go, oh yeah, whatever. I mean, the people that need the big self-gratification saying, oh, that meal was amazing, chef, they shouldn't be in hospitality. It should be the people that care when someone said they didn't like it. And you go, really? Why? And you kind of like have a look at it themselves. I always used to say, have a look at the plates that are coming back from the restaurants that they've got food on them, and see why they haven't done it.
Yeah.
You see it in the eye fillet and you go, it's not cooked enough. And it's amazing when it comes back to the restaurant and they go, oh, they didn't say anything, but they didn't like it. You go, well, why didn't they say something? So they should say. I mean, people out there should go, I want the eye fillet cooked more, or whatever it
might be. Yeah.
Because nothing worse than food coming back and then people go away and go, it's too expensive, and they don't know how to cook. You know?
Yeah. Because we all get it wrong now and again.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
more times than not. So. But my, but as back to your question, what makes a good chef? I think it's pretty much got to be everything now. Yeah. And I'm lucky in the fact that I love cooking. I love all the aspects of it. But I actually love the fact of what it's given me as a person, as to be able to live in a decent house, you know, 3 beautiful kids, from where I came from in Coventry. It's just given me everything. And also, you've got to be able now to adapt to different situations. If you're doing a charity dinner, or you're doing a TV show, or, you know, signing a book deal, or you're going out to talk to a large crowd of people, like doing a TED Talk and all that sort of stuff. I mean, chefs have been notoriously terrible they're sort of like social spastics, if you like. They just they like staying in the kitchen and just drinking beer. If you want to get to the next level now, and you go to any level after that, you've got to be across all of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've been, touch wood, I've been incredibly blessed to meet some really good people who've given me some good pointers things for like media and all that sort of stuff, and you kind of go, okay, and you pick up these things. I mean, I reckon there are curves that you get offered positions, and everybody gets offered a money job, or you get offered a job overseas, and you've got to think to yourself, what comes at the end of that? So you turn around, okay, you get offered a job in Spain, for example, you think, oh, well, I can't speak the lingo, and a boy from Coventry going to Spain, you go, it's not going to work for me. But the natural progression was to go to London first and then learn from there and then go, okay, and consequently you end up in Australia.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, what's a good chef these days? It's pretty much everything.
Yeah, you've got to be well involved in everything.
You've got to look about your charity aspect. You've got to be able to go into newspapers and stuff like that and be able to sort of like talk to somebody. You've got to be able to do podcasts, and now you've got to be able to cook online and stuff like that. And you've got to do the whole thing. And then I would doubt if any chef, well, most of the guys that you would have on your podcast, they would have had some sort of media involvement where people have asked them their opinion or all that sort of stuff.
It's only crazy.
Well, it's only the stupid ones who sort of like say what they really think. And, you know what I mean? It's like, like I said to my missus today, I'm going to do this. The Robbie thing. I said, I'm not going to swear because I know that the kids are going to listen to it in years to come. Then, and I love the fact that like, yours is so brutal and raw, the podcast, but I want my kids to go, oh, is that what he's like? Is that what he was thinking? That's why he got to that stage. No, so it's a little bit about history.
Definitely, 100%. And this is one of the reasons, like I said, I've said this before, and I've heard other people say, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my son will be able to listen to this
exactly.
and go,
That's it.
He was giving it his all. Do you know what I mean? He was going, and maybe he could get inspiration from it. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow?
We have a really good story about I did this TV show with the convicts years ago. With
I
these
watched
kids.
some of it.
So we did that, and then my kids were in it. Like my 3-year-old was in it running around, and the now 7-year-old was like just born. She was a year old, so they don't remember it.
Yeah.
So just recently they've been watching Adriano Zumbo's Desserts on TV. Yeah. So my missus said, well, if you're watching reality TV, you should go and watch it yourself. So they put the TV thing on. Of course, the first 20 minutes of it is me going, 30 years ago, I was in prison. And then the kids went, what? They were like, hold on. Like, it was like the biggest thing. They were like, what do you mean? So they had to stop the thing. So Cooper, my 10-year-old, was like, what do you mean you're in prison? And I said, yeah. I said, what do you think the show was about? She goes, oh, I thought you were telling lies.
What did you go to prison for?
Oh, it was just fighting and like being just a general hoodlum. So essentially, like, I mean, you know what it's like. I mean, we were 16 years old. There was a gang from our little area in Coventry called Radford. We would like be fighting with the people from Camden. On it went. So it was just bad. Anyway, but then as I said to my kids afterwards the next day, because it really plagues them because they're like, prison. So I think
bad people, don't they? Bad people, prison, you know.
I think my middle one thinks I'm cool, but the eldest is, because she's a bit goody two-shoes, she's like, well, why did you do that? And you can't. And amazing to me, a guy at 54 having to explain to a 10-year-old, you know, things will change in your life. You'll see things that you'll go, that's terrible. But honestly, for me to apologise to my 10-year-old, I was like, look, I was a really bad person. She was going, and what did Nanny Fran say? My mum, oh my God. And having to apologise to, you know, I'm used to them apologising to me apologising to my 10-year-old daughter about things I did when I was 16. I'm like, oh, the life of a father.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. Yeah. But it just goes to show, like, for the reality is, everyone can change.
Oh, absolutely.
What you were isn't what you are.
Oh no, my life in Coventry when I was, the history is we were always clean as kids, right? We were taught always to make your own bed in the morning, and I loved it. And that's something that holds true to me now. I always make my own bed, no matter what. It's not like, you know. But then we were always clean. The house was always clean. My mother tried her best, but she was on the social security. So we had nothing. And I think that's probably, that's come back to me now, was where I appreciate, you know, if I've got a laptop or I've got a nice bag or whatever, I love the respect of that, what it is. I like good things. Like, for example, I only like you using good knives and stuff like that because you appreciate when you've had nothing to having something, as opposed, and you know, you kind of go, yeah, we like going on holiday to good places, as opposed to, we don't do caravan parks and stuff like that. And it's good for some people, but I remember what it was like in Coventry having nothing. And I was saying to my kids the other day, they were arguing about, one of them couldn't find their gloves or something, and I said, we used to have to get a boiled egg. hold the boiled egg, and we'd pass it from hand to hand until we got to school. And then we'd eat the egg for breakfast. And they were like, wow, you were that poor. I don't know, we were that poor. But it was like, I said, it was hardly Oliver Twist, you know what I mean? But it was like, you know.
I love the egg.
Yeah, that's right. And because you just didn't have gloves. You just didn't do it. And it was cold. But also, we were walking to school when we were 8 and 9 there.
Do you remember putting your... did you do this when we did this? So we talked about the other day. Did you put carrier bags? Carrier bags on your socks.
Yeah, that's right.
And then your trainers over
that's
the
right.
socks. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And we would walk to school. There's no way would I... me and my missus... Well, I wouldn't care so much, but my 10-year-old, there's no way that she would walk to school. It's 2 blocks. She could get the train and walk. There's no way that would happen now because we've become this... Because of things like Madeleine McCann and stuff, you just oversee it now. And you go, you're so protective of your kids, and you kind of go, wow. You know?
100%. It's funny you said that because, again, having a son, and I kind of like take my hat off to my parents to the amount of freedom they give me. You know, like, I would go out in the woods, and I'm sure, I'd be gone. Just come back especially in 6 weeks holidays. Come back at for your lunch. I'd be out at like 7, 8, crack of dawn. Out. I'd be
My mother would shout from the step, "Oi! Dinner! If you're not in now, you're not getting any." You go like that. And then the whole street would be, and everybody would be going, "Oh, it's time." And everybody was sort of like around about the same time. And those long English summers where you used to go out and play football all day and kicking the footy around. I've got a garden out there. My kids are like, "What's that green stuff?" I said, "That's grass, love." Get
out there.
Get out there. Put your iPad down and get out.
Where did you actually train?
So I was born in Coventry. So I was in Coventry. There's a college there called Henley College. So I was... At that time, so the short story is, I left school. I didn't have any I had a good education. I've always been pretty good with general knowledge, but then I did my exams, and I ended up on a work for the dole scheme. It was like a youth opportunities program. So at that time, with Thatcher's Britain, you couldn't really get a job because she was closing all the factories down. So in the factories that she was closing down, they were converting them, and they were giving young Herberts like me the chance to go and paint things, and like they were supposed to give you experience. So you get these, the youth opportunities program. So you go in and you paint the windows of these factories, and it was supposed to give you experience, so that if you did see a job that you applied for, you had this experience. So I remember being in the car. I think it was more the maintenance thing where you did the painting, and it was an old factory, old Herbert's factory, and then you had to polish the floorboards and paint the floorboards, and it was a massive old factory. So you paint the things, and there was a sewing bit where the girls and all that who couldn't get a job, they were in as well, and there was a maintenance thing, and you do the painting, and then you'd wander around, and that was good for about a year. But then your year was coming up, and they'd say, right, you've got to go and you've got to move to a different department. So then for some reason, and I don't know why I did this, but I ended up in the Calypso, the steel drum making thing. So from Coventry, like there's a very black population and stuff like that. And there was a guy there called Vic, who was the Calypso king making, drum making thing. So you did have the Notting Hill Carnival, and it was a big deal. Like people would come in there, you see them all the time in the newspaper. I thought, oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
So I went in there, but then I didn't realise how much harder work it was banging out these drums, right? So you'd be there and you're going, what do I do with this? He goes, well, just keep banging it. So you go, no, I'm like 16, and I'd done my little thing in youth offenders thing, and so I'd come out to this thing, and I was like, okay. So I was banging on these drums, and I was thinking, well, this isn't my life. This is not what I want to do. Like the Calypso King Curley, no, it's not for me. So I thought, well, what's the alternative? And there was the canteen. So every day we used to get like a cup of tea and toast and some beans or whatever, and it was subsidised. But then the thing with the youth opportunities job, and I remember it used to be like £5.55 or £11.50 what it was on the dole, but you used to get £25 if it was you were working on this YOP scheme. Yeah. So I was thinking, okay. So we used to go to the canteen.
That's a week, right?
Yeah. A week. So yeah, 25 quid a week. So yeah. So they said, why don't you go in the canteen? I'm like, okay, all right, yeah. So I went in the canteen, and there was a guy there called Martin, and he trained at Henley College, which is the college in Coventry. And he said, look, if you want to meet girls and you want to travel, you should learn to cook. I was like, really? Because my dad's a bus driver. So he said, why not? He said, why don't you give it a go? So I said, all right. Well, so he got me in at Henley College. Now, because I'd had a bad start and I'd already been to the young offenders, he had to vouch for me. So I went up and I met the head of Henley College with, I don't know if I took my dad or I might take Martin. So Martin from the canteen came with me and he said, right, okay. So I said, I want to do it. He goes, you sure? So I said, yeah. I said, yeah, why not? And it was all new and people walking around in white. I was thinking, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, we'll give you the opportunity. So he said, you've got to save, I think it was £1,500 or whatever it was. He said, but if you save your £1,500, because I was an older student by then, I was about 18 by then.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I saved that. I got a part-time job working at the Trust House 40 at the Post House. And I did that. And then I can say this to you hand on heart now, from the time I walked into it, I knew this was it.
Yeah.
So you kind of get in there, you go, yeah, this is it. And whether or not it was the discipline and, I remember...
Structure.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of, if you like, the naughty people end up in hospitality, because they like the thing of being told, listen, you need to be here by 10 o'clock tomorrow or else you don't get paid. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I remember we had to wear the big tall hats and the neckerchief, and I remember having to starch. We would buy a bottle of starch, spray starch for these hats, and we used to put them over an old cornflake box and then stand them up and then spray them and then iron it on the cornflake box just to make it that. So we had all these starch hats, and the girls had the flat ones, but then we had the chefs in there, and I remember for those 2 years of having those things, and it's probably the last time I actually wore a hat. I was actually at college and from there. So, but I loved it. I loved every part of it. I loved the whole way, the fact that I was working at the Post House and going to college. Girls. I mean, my first true love was there. I mean, it was like, wow, girls, and she was like, better class than me. Her dad owned a pub. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. So, but
and you fell in love with it. Simple as that.
Yeah, you do, and you do because
it's addictive, isn't it? It's addictive.
Well, it's everything because you can go on holiday with it. You can take, you can go somewhere. And also now the great thing now is, of course, with social media, it's all so small. I mean. I get to know Fergus, Angela Hartnett, people in America, and it's like, I've been very lucky to be able to do what I wanted to do in the industry and go, okay, it's been fantastic. So for me, I just think our industry is amazing.
Yeah, me too.
There are certain parts of it you kind of go, but you can see the people who are not going to make it and the people who don't appreciate it.
It's the attitude, isn't it? Yeah. Attitude is huge.
Yeah, I mean, I was out last night at the dinner, on half the table I knew everybody, and on the other half I knew none of them. And it's kind of like, and I thought, maybe it is, I'm getting old. I don't know that other half now. It used to be a time when I knew everybody.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I love it for what it is, and I think it's we're blessed to have that, and I'm very lucky.
How do you think the training differs from like then and now?
The problem with the training thing is it's now become such a business of like training young kids,
like as in TAFE or college or It
also means that they've got to try the old one size fits all. I mean, I remember when in Coventry, the kids who were there, they all sort of worked at the 3- and 4-star hotels, and they were kind of like, you do the same sort of thing, and you talk about what a bechamel was and a velouté, and so and so's got an eye fillet on the menu and all that sort of stuff. Now, because catering's so vast, you got people that you're trying to train who, they're never going to make it, and they're doing it because they've been sort of forced into it. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
So they're setting a curriculum for these kids that, well, they're not going to work at the Nomas and all that of this world but that's fine. But they've got to set something for somebody to say, this is a tomato. This is what you do with a tomato. So for the people who are going to go on to the bigger and better things, you've got to push yourself to get there. Yeah. I mean, there's no way I would have, for what they were teaching me at Henley was like, okay, it was a good base level. They talked about hygiene and health and hygiene and all that sort of stuff. And I mean,
machinery, isn't it? A lot of like, don't stick your hand in the mixer and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is a mincer. Don't try and put your finger in it. Yeah, thank you. Why is that? Oh, But then I remember the first thing we did was a Reese pilaf and a velouté, and all you kind of go, well, okay. And from there, and at the end of it, you get to eat it. But then I was saying to somebody the other day, when I was working in London, I couldn't afford to do anything else other than work in London because you'd eat at the staff canteen, and you would go back at the end of your thing and go back to the staff canteen, and if they saw you going, "Oi, you've already had one meal," because living in London, you were in the bedsit, or if you weren't, you were staying at one of the on the hostel, and that was your life. Now you look at the apprentices nowadays. I mean, I've got apprentices now. Blake's phone, car, girl. I'm like, wow, look at what happened. When did all this happen? And then I remember being on, I think £110 was like when I first moved to London. You translate that now. I'm paying my apprentices like $700, and I'm like, $700? I could do so much. Yeah. I could rule the world on $700.
Especially back then. Yeah. Where was it you were working in London?
I essentially moved from Coventry down to a place called the Complete Angler in Marlow.
Yeah.
And from the Complete Angler Marlow, we moved to London from there. So we went to the Hyatt Carlton Tower in London, where I met Jeremy Strode. Jeremy was on the source of me, a guy called Steve Szabo, who was up Queensland. And when we originally, then later on in life, myself, Szabo, Dean Cambray, Michael Lambie, and somebody else, we ended up being the so-called Brit Pack that came over here at that time.
Yeah.
So I remember Jeremy was at the Hyatt Carlton Tower then, and he was the first year. He was the first commie like I was, and same as he was. So
what year is this?
This could be 84, 82, round about then.
Oh, right.
Right, because I remember punk rock had happened, and we were all going out to Red or Dead and buying clothes and stuff like that. Red or Dead and London and all that sort of stuff. So we were in London, and it was a good time then because it was the Marco explosion. Marco was happening. I was working for a guy. When I left Carlton Tower, I went to the Savoy. I worked for a guy called Gary Hollyhead there. And Gary Hollyhead went on to then do Sutherland's, which was a really smart fine dining restaurant in Soho. But then he was quite mad.
Exciting times. Was that really
exciting? Yeah, fantastic. Because you'd open the caterer. Or you'd open the Standard, and then you were getting written about. Like Gary Hollier was getting written about in his new Soho thing. He got a Michelin star. I was like, wow. And then when you start talking about Michelin, but you've got to remember,
there wouldn't have been many Michelin back in them days, will there?
No. So what? But I was a boy from Coventry, so we egg and chips and with tomato sauce was it for me. So when you're talking about when we were at the Hyatt Carlton Tower, it was a 1-star Michelin at the Chelsea Room, and it was just fantastic. Like you go in there, you go and get your laundry, you have it in, you get changed. These are good guys.
You're on about your jacket and that, right? Yeah. Go down
you put your jacket on,
all hanging up on the hook. Yeah,
you go, this is great, cool. And you got paid, and then I remember it vividly to this day that if you recommended a friend, you got £50 if they were still there 3 months later. So I was telling everybody, like, come to Hyatt Carlton Tower, but when that 50 quid came in, you're like, beauty, bonus, and out you go. And then so the Hyatt was fantastic, and it was straight shifts, so you do earlies one week and late the week after.
Oh, that's good.
And that was fantastic. And then, but you had to do like a week in the chinoiserie once every 4 weeks, which was like all the first commies used to have to go down there. All the demi chefs used to go down in the chinoiserie, which was making club sandwiches, but it was in a really tight space. And I remember it was the shift that you went, oh, I'm on the chinoiserie next week, and it was like, oh dear. So you come in, all of a sudden you'd have 8 club sandwiches, and you were in it. And you'd go, oh God.
I was on a sandwich section as well, club sandwich, roast beef and onion gravy sandwich. Man, you'd be in this shit.
And I'd be in it all the time, and you kind of go, and they'd have these cooks who were down there Monday to Friday, and then you used to belittle you, because you'd be upstairs doing the fricassee of lobster and cucumber in the 1-star.
Yeah.
And then you get downstairs, and you'd be in it with making a sandwich. You go, yep. That's a great leveler. It was a great leveler. Yeah.
But you forget to get the butter out. Butter's rock hard, and you're like, fuck, trying to melt the butter.
So I used to go up, and they'd have all this. They'd have all the prep upstairs. So you'd have the sliced cheese, the tomato, and you had about 2 hours in the morning to go and get all that ready. So I'd go upstairs, try and get as much as I could, and then go around the other sections and go, yeah, I'm going to need a bit of that, and steal a bit of that. Then they'd come down and go, you got my mustard? No, not me. No. But I was a boy from Coventry, so I was a bit adept at that. So, and the Hyatt was fantastic. A French chef called Bernard Gaume, fantastic. And then for some reason, I left there and went to Savoy. Now, Savoy was a completely different thing. It was a big regime out there. There was about 90 chefs, different sections, all that sort of stuff.
Different kitchens as well.
Oh, it's big. It was just been renovated. And Edelman, the chef there, he was the first one to have a chef's table in his office, I think. Yeah, so they were all trying to compete with Mosiman, because Mosiman had it all going on back. Yeah, right? Yeah, he had it all going on back there, and because he was hitting a bit at the Dorchester and stuff like that. So we went to Savoy, and I was like, okay. It just wasn't me. It was like the Hyatt had been one star for a reason. It was like they did things really well. Like they had Jeremy. I'm not going to say about Jeremy. He was so clean. He was such a clean freak. He'd come in half an hour early, wipe the benches, make sure all the boards were tidy. He had everything. He was so boxed off. He was very clever. Yeah. The Savoy was just big, brutal, like lots and lots of mise en place, and it was like stuff. And I'd never seen people like using vitamin C to keep stuff green because it was in the fridge for longer. And I was like, what's all this about? We didn't, at the Hyatt, we never used Glad wrap. At the end of the day, the fridge was almost empty, so they might put a tea towel over something if they want to keep the meat from there. But you didn't wrap it in Glad wrap. Bernard was going, no, what's Glad wrap? What is this stuff? You know?
Yeah.
So
it'd have been pretty new back in them days.
Well, that's right. And also, it was only when we'd moved from the Hyatt Carlton to the Savoy when they were talking about people like Marco and all that sort of stuff. And it was that the whole new generation of those chefs who were coming through, of like probably taking off the shackles of what the French were doing. And it was like, okay, we're going to stand up for ourselves. I mean, everybody's got Marco stories, and that time when I met him, I was like, well, I was petrified of the man.
You were?
Yeah. And now I see him in Australia all the time. We have a laugh, and we did a cooking thing together in Singapore recently, and I always argue about the fact of how he made his money and all that sort of stuff, and about the fact that he uses master stock stuff now and all that. And I think, so back then, it would be impossible for him to turn around and say, yes, I'm using this in my kitchen at Harvey's or Cafe Royale or there's no way would he be there. But now, as thing goes on, and that's the way back to your original question, people adapt to what's in front of them. If someone's going to put $1 million check in front of you and say, are you going to say that you use this at Box Street, Ilkley? You're going to go, for $1 million? Yeah, I'd do that.
I'll even use it.
Yeah, that's right. So he was using these thing when we did this thing, because I had a pepper sauce recipe, he had a pepper sauce recipe. Anyway, we were just talking about the same thing, and then we ended up we just did this dish. They pretty much tasted the same, but he's getting paid $1 million for it, whereas I'm not. There you go. So who's the mug?
But was it sauce bois boudin? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, I thought it was a roux thing.
Was it a roux thing?
I thought it was a roux thing because I love it, and I was talking about
love
this.
It as well.
I was talking. This is one of the things I was talking to Donovan about last week. So, bois boudin goes well with chicken wings. It's just amazing, and you sit there and you just go, "Yep, fantastic." And the fact is, olive oil, and you're supposed to be able to. I think the classic way is that the tomato and the shallots are supposed to hold your fork up in it.
Oh,
so
right.
it should be got to be that thick.
Yeah.
But I remember working in those kitchens in London. You'd be chopping shallots, and if they weren't good enough, in the stock they went.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, exactly.
And you kind of go, okay. And is that the way to go back now, or is it more your creatives like your Dan Hunters up at Bray? You kind of go, wow, the stuff they're doing there. I mean, if you'd have said parsnip and white chocolate ice cream back then, they'd have looked at you and slapped you around. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have been able to do it. You wouldn't have been able to do it. So, but yeah, I think the Hyatt was fantastic. And then for some reason, I went to the Savoy, and I was doing some other casual jobs at different places just to live. And so I'd done some, working at some more restaurants like, Ma Cuisine and all that sort of stuff. And I'd worked with a good friend of mine, Russell, who was a sous chef at the Savoy, and he sort of took me over there. The Savoy was hard. It was just tough,
Yeah. And where did you go after that?
I went after that. Essentially, I pretty much headed over went to France for a while, just to bum around, but nothing overly special. The problem is I'm from Coventry. I'm a smart ass. So anybody's going to burn something, I'm going to say Joan of Arc to the French. They don't like it because they think she's a patron saint. We know her as a witch. So, and that's the thing. And I explained about the war that we turned up, and they don't get that. So you know, smart ass from Coventry in a Paris kitchen was never going to last very long. So in the end, I wasn't making burgers, but it was the next step up. So then I thought, okay. So I went back to London. I was working for a friend, and then the Hyatt had asked me if I wanted to go to Australia to open Max's, the so-called fine dining restaurant at the Grand Hyatt here. And I thought, oh, okay. They send you photos of the Meter Girls up in Brisbane, and you go, wow, or the Gold Coast. You go, hey. I've been doing 16-hour days working with people like Gordon and Marco doing casual and stuff, and they give you that. You go, okay, where do I sign up? So, had an interview at the Hyatt again because we left on pretty good terms, and then they said, right, okay, off it comes, and so I came over here. So, but at the Savoy, I met Donovan Cook who's here now. So at that stage, you can't, and that's the great thing about our industry. You can remember somebody you haven't seen him for 30 years, and if they're still in the industry, you go, okay, yeah, I knew he was going to be okay. And it's like a badge of honour of how long you can stick it out for. And it's like never see, you see people now who are now selling wine, or you're selling dry goods for a certain company. You go, okay. And I don't look at them as a failure, but it's kind of like, am I the smart one, or are they the smart one getting out?
Yeah, I get it. I totally.
So they come in and go, and I love the one where you get an Uber and they go, I used to be a chef, or I'm a chef. I'm like, really? Yeah, you're driving the Uber, smart guy. Here's me going, well, I'm off for another 3 days away where I'm in it. But anyway.
Yeah. You've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great chefs, as you
good fun.
Who really stands out? Who's the one that you've gone, he was just unbelievable when you look back?
I think for the simple fact, for what he did and the way he does things, I would have to say Fergus, for the simple fact he's got Parkinson's. He carries on regardless. He enjoys a drink far too often, but he lives life because is his last part of it. But also taking food back to its natural state. I mean, it's a bone marrow. Yeah. Bone marrow on toast, parsley salad, you go, how cool. I mean, okay, if it's his or if it's not his or somebody's done it.
He made it famous no matter what.
That's right. And also, you sit and talk to Fergus, and he'll give you the time of day. He's like, oh yeah, he'll sit down, he'll have a glass of wine, whether or not you're a garbage collector or you're not. Yeah. It's like you kind of go, okay. And I lost count the amount of times I've been at St. John and how much. I mean, I've done things with him in Singapore and all over the world, and I like that part of I don't really do the hero thing very well, or not in cooking anyway. But I look at things and go, that's pretty cool that you can go to St. John, you sit down, and Fergus is there, and he'll go, oh, Ian, we sit, and you have a bottle of wine together, and you chat and you catch up, and then the same with his partner Trevor. Mitch Tonks was good, the fisherman down in Devon. He was fantastic. He came over for the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. Phenomenal. He was really good. Into it, wanted to be busy, so wasn't what he would go out for lunch, out for lunch at Cumulus, come back, push on and go, I just saw this thing at Cumulus, can we do something like this tonight? And you go, fantastic,
Yeah,
he was great.
Still enthusiastic.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
All the cooks who I know and like, they're still enthusiastic. Angela Hartnett, she was good fun. She was good fun. First time she came over, she wasn't good fun.
She wasn't?
No, she came over as part of... there was a women doing the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. Yeah. I think she had too much on. So she came over. And for the life of me, I thought she was Welsh. She's not Welsh. They're Northern Irish. But I was calling her Yaki Da and all that. I'm taking them at Mickey. And I was giving her, calling her Shirley Bassey and all that sort of stuff. And she didn't... Well, she obviously got it, but she didn't really get it. So the first time I met her, it wasn't friction, but she was like... The thing with Angela is she weighs you up pretty quickly. And you imagine what she's done when she was working with Gordon, how many of those people that she would have gone through. Here we go. Yeah. And also, here's another smart ass from Coventry. So there you go. So then I got to know her via Mitch Tonks, who's got the seahorse and stuff. And we did a sort of dinner together. And she was fantastic. From then she went, oh, you're not that idiot that I think you are.
So, did she say that?
Yeah, for sure.
Good on her.
And then when she was over here at Christmas this year, we caught up and we had breakfast together, and it was just fantastic. It's just, and that was good. And there's somebody who's had the longevity to be in the industry as long as she had. There's a special type of toughness for a woman to be able to stand up for the 30, 40 years of doing those kitchens like Ramsay's and doing her own thing in London and still competing and still on the thing.
At top of the game.
The best it was, I said to my brother came over here this year, and he was over with his family. So I said to him, I've got to go in. I'm having breakfast with a chef from England. So I said, we're having breakfast. So I said, come up, we'll meet, and we'll go and play some golf and all that sort of stuff afterwards. So it was January, so she was just finishing up at the tennis. Angela was, before she was flying back to Heathrow. So we had breakfast down at Kirk's, and my brother's come round the corner, and he's looked at me, and he's looked at Angela, and he's gone, Angela Hartner? Yeah? What? He goes, I love Angela Hartner. So I see her on the Saturday morning TV, and I'm like, yeah? And he goes, Angela Hartner. I'm like, relax, mate. It's just Angela Hartner. And she's like, hello. And it was one of those moments you're going to go, oh, yeah. He's from Coventry, she's from London, I'm over in Melbourne, and you kind of go, oh, yeah, good stuff. And I think, and that part of it is that industry is good.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think regarding that, like, I look up to heaps of chefs that, I admire heaps and heaps of chefs. But when I'm in the presence, I feel like it's chef to chef. Do you know what I mean? I'm not really that starstruck. I'm honoured to meet them, but I'm not like, I don't know, like if other people might see them on telly or whatever and be like, oh, it's Angela Hartner or whatever, but she's still just a chef.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what she's been through.
I always had this thing that I was never good enough because I was in Coventry. I always thought Coventry, it was sort of like the Midlands. It wasn't London. It wasn't the North. It wasn't,
Yeah.
So I adapted pretty quickly to any situation I was in. Like, for example, if I was in the kitchen and you were working, I'd be going, be Northern Robbie or Bell End or whatever. It would be and you'd be the North, or it'll be reference to where you come from. With Matt Wilkinson, for example, it'd be like hey Barnsley. You know what I mean? All about that.
Yeah.
So you adapt to that situation. I always thought, because whether or not it was my social thing with the fact that we didn't have any money and my mum and dad were divorced, it was like I never thought I was good enough to be either in the hotels or in the restaurants. I was lucky. So whenever I was in the presence of these people, I was sort of like thinking, oh, I'm lucky to be here. But then you realise Fergus has got Parkinson's. Angela's had a really hard life as well. And you kind of think everybody's got a story. And you think at the end of the day, they're just human. And the mind of some of these people. I listened to him talking about when he was on Desert Island Disc, Rennie, and he was talking about music that I liked as well. So we're not that far in our minds, but what he does is completely different to what I do.
Well, as you're going through that and you're saying, that's the way he does it and that, what would you say your style was? How would you, what category?
The only way I'd ever describe the food that I want to serve would be the food that I want to eat. So I look at it and go, I'd want to eat that. So I can get a plate in front of me and look at it and go, that mousse is wrong. Or you can look at it and go, that quenelle, it's not a good quenelle. And you can look at it and go, I wouldn't eat that as a person. Or you go, no, it's not what I want to do. All right, you descend the function. I mean, a function's a function.
Of course.
You're doing 5,000 meals. Are they going to be perfect? No. But, the first one you do for the photo and the Instagram, it's great. But the rest of it, you kind of go, well, that's that. I think for my style, I have no style. I'm from Coventry, but I think it's just food I want to eat. I look at it and I want
cooking, right?
Well, that's it. And also,
that's what I think.
I think classical. I was trained classically.
Yeah.
I want to lighten it up a bit, but I still believe that nothing better than good oysters.
Yeah.
You can sit there and have a bottle of Chablis, beautiful oysters that have been done properly, and you kind of go, that's great. And also, primary produce, the stuff you get, you go, that's fantastic. You know, I mean. People who build, poach off a lamb for 14 hours, press it, turn it into something else, and then put a pea on top of it, and then a piece of lettuce, and all you kind of go, eat the lamb. Have the lamb first, and then go from it like that. I don't want to go to places that kind of disguise food into be something else, I'll never forget they used to do this. They used to get this pea puree and poach it into an acetate bath to turn it back into little peas. I'm like, nature gave you the pea. Yeah. It comes in its own little skin. Why are we doing these little green, the green caviar things? And they go, because it makes the pea smaller. I'm like, but nature gave you this perfect thing, a pea.
Like you say, oysters, Mother Nature's present,
That's it. You kind of go, that's food. We do whipped cod's roe and stuff like that, and but
I was going to say that to you. Even I felt like even eating there last night at the Saloon, that I still felt like it was classic, solid cooking, 100%. But I still felt like it's moved with the times.
Yeah, well, we've got steak and chips on. It's our biggest seller.
Yeah.
But good roquefort, It's the beef is fantastic beef. It's like grown in Australia. It's and it's chips, but the chips that we cook by hand. I don't. My thing is, for example, there's a good example. I don't like frozen fries. Yeah. It's just taking the easy way out. It's like my thing is like when I was a kid. If you worked in a canteen or you worked at a burger bar and all that sort of stuff, you hadn't made it. Okay, so. Until a couple of years ago, I was going to get involved in a burger bar, and I pulled out at the last minute because I remember myself. It's not what I want to do. It's not where I wanted to see myself. I don't want Ian Curley to be known as the Burger King. You know what I mean? That's not what it's about. Yeah. I want myself to be known as, he enjoyed himself. He had a good career. He's got beautiful kids. Fantastic. Yeah. But I don't want to work overnight in a burger shop. That's not what I did 35 years of cooking for.
Yeah, and you know what else I find with that is, and I'm not knocking anyone or anything, I find it really difficult to ask someone to do something that I don't want to do myself.
Exactly.
So it'd be hard to have a burger joint if I aren't keen on cooking burgers. So why am I going to get someone else? That's the way I look at it. I find it hard to ask someone to do a job that I wouldn't do myself. That was drilled into me as a kid.
Trevor from St. John always said to me, there's got to be a reason why you open a business. He goes, if you're just going to open another restaurant to make money out of food, it's not that. He goes, St. John has its niche. He goes, you've got to have something separate, or there's got to be something special. And it was nothing made me prouder than Fergus and Trevor coming to the French Saloon and going, yeah, this is good. They sit there on the balcony, Fergus smoking his head off, Trevor's drunk, everybody was wrapped. And I was like, yeah, that to me was one of the highlights of my life is having them there going, this is fantastic.
That's awesome.
And you kind of sit there and you go, yeah, this is the reason why I did all this,
Yeah.
And also,
it was all worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And, you forget about the amount of money you plough into restaurants and stuff like that, and you kind of go, that's that. And, people come in and they put chefs up now on these pedestals, and you kind of go, you know what? I know him, and he's not like that. I mean, I know people are writing books about their story, and I'm like, you're not Nelson Mandela. You know what I mean? It's an eye fillet, mate. You know what I mean? Go, really? Mandela. That's it. You're not now. My story. Or my history, or you kind of go, I get Marco and all that sort of stuff. He's some people find it interesting. Autobiographies of chefs, and you go, really? Why? Please no, don't do it.
You were 9 years at the Point.
9 years at the Point, just before.
That was a big restaurant at the time, right? That was before I got here. It's still
at that time. It was like it hadn't been done properly. So they had a couple of chefs in there who had started off, and it didn't work out properly. And there was a management company, like a very they were trying to run it as a management company. I mean, I think Eldred had started the training there, and they wanted to do it a certain way, but then it was Italian owners. So Tony Eldred would want to do certain things of the training and on the hiring and all that sort of stuff, and the Italian owners would go, nah, that's not the way we want to do it. So it was always a bit of a conflict at that time. But then I took that over as it's one of its first chefs, and I was there for 9 years, and it was tough, and I must admit, that made me grow up a lot.
Did you think you built your reputation there?
I think Rhubarb's had started it in Fitzroy, but I think the Point was the one where the critics recognised it. It got two hats in its time and stuff like that, and it was like. But I was aggressive there. I must admit, it was aggressive kitchen. I was working for Italian meat exporters. Stock take every Sunday night.
Drilling you hard on costs. And
nine shifts a week. Everybody worked 9 shifts a week, splits. You go and long days and stuff like that. And it was like, and I was hard on the staff. And I look back in it now and think, there's no way I should have been like that, and there's no way I would be like that again.
Yeah.
But at that time, when you're in that environment, so you've got a function room that holds 200, you've got a restaurant that holds 150, downstairs the cafe held 400, and then there was a private room that had 100. You were trying to run it. On staff that didn't want to work there, and it was hard. So, I had some good cooks go through there and stuff like that. But it's like it was hard doing it that way. And I've always wanted to have a brand new kitchen that I could would be great. I've never worked in but the European kitchen was horrible, but the kitchen at the Point was awful, also horrible. I mean, you ask Scott Pickett and Andy Harmer and all that who've been afterwards, nothing changed in it. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But serve some good food, some good nights, some good battles with the front of house and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But,
old school style.
But old school, that's the thing. Old school, you were allowed to do that sort of thing because they knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And everybody was into it.
It was accepted, wasn't it?
Yeah. You shake your hands at the end of service. You give somebody a bollocking and go, not good enough. You shake your hands. The next day, you start all over again. You get your mise-en out. You start all over again. Now, it just doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't translate why anybody would work 14, 15 hours a day in a kitchen, get terrified all day. The pay's better, but you kind of go, they'd go, well, why am I doing this again?
Yeah,
Why would I go and work for somebody like him who's shouting at me, telling me I'm useless? Well, no, of course. But at that time, I was doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the environment that I grew up in and I trained in. But why was that? Why? I racked my brain.
I think it's because of the English thing of what we were doing back then. When we started off in England, I mean, the French do it a little bit differently, but the English, the people who were revered as the heroes were the people who had like your Gordons and your Marcos and stuff like that, and they had that training. And that British thing was that middle class, it was the lower class kids who were coming through, like me and you, who never, we weren't public school boys who was like left Eton and Harrow. It was like we were working kids who gone right, and it was definitely dog eat dog. Because I remember being in kitchens where people would hide the mise en place at the bottom of the potato thing because they knew they were in the stuff. I mean, at Savoy, they would wrap up their fondant potatoes and put them at the bottom of the demi-glace and stuff like that, so nobody else could get them the next day. So it was like you had to get on top of it, and like pans, spatulas, the whole thing. And we had two. Even at the Hyatt, we had 2 pans that were good enough for the carbs liver, but they wouldn't go out to another section because if anybody borrowed them and they didn't approve the pans again, the carbs liver would stick and you would cop it. And you go, oh, chef, and they're not interested. And you think, your people like your Martin Wisharts and all that sort of stuff you listen to, it's the same thing. At that time, and especially like places like Marco and across the country, it was the lower class who were coming through, and they realised that it was a career then, and it was dog eat dog.
So what are you thinking? You're thinking now less aggressive. Let's just say aggressive people.
You can't do it.
Do you think though less aggressive people in general are getting into the industry? Like, I don't want to say better people or nicer people. I just mean maybe people that would have gone on to do other jobs.
I think that people see the TV thing now and go, wow, this is me. And a lot of you got your ethnic people who are like, your people who are like your Chinese and your Indians are getting into the thing now, and they're bringing their own thing to it and their spices, and you go, that's cool. The problem with it is that the restaurant that I knew 20 years ago is not the same restaurant now. You can't make money out of a 30-seater restaurant. You need other things on top of it.
Yeah.
So, for example, you need to write a book or a column, or you need to know.
Yeah,
work.
You need seconding revenue streams. For sure.
And if I was working at French Saloon and Kirk's and stuff, I'd find it very, very difficult to make money. At the moment, I do the consulting, and it helps me out, and I love it. But if I was the head chef at French Saloon, I wouldn't make any money because I'd have to pay myself enough to live, and it wouldn't sustain me.
Yeah.
There's no money in food. People keep going, oh, you're joking. I'm saying, I'm telling you right now, there's no money in food because I have to pay my head chef, my sous chef. For a restaurant, you've got to have sommeliers and stuff like that. Years ago, you could do BYO. People used to go to Tansies, and it used to be great. You go to BYO, take a bottle of wine. Fantastic.
Corkage.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, natural wine, the whole thing, you've got to have people who know all about it. And that's the thing. My staff go on, and they're drinking like natural wine. I'm like, what is this rubbish? And they go, oh, you don't understand because you're old. I'm like, of course I don't. That's it. I pay the bills. There you go. There you go.
Definitely.
But,
and then there was 10, 11 years at European.
European, yes. So
what a venue that is. When I first come to Melbourne and I went there, and to be honest, I was at Rockpool for 5 years, but if I wasn't there, there's a few times when I was having a bit of a rough time at Rockpool. You go through peaks and troughs and that.
We all do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was thinking I'm going to go for a job, because it was so Pithiviers. It was just my bread and butter. I was like,
I loved it.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's good basic cooking, and it was something that I wanted to eat. So, and I would sit. I do it now, and I eat in my restaurants. I have lunch and dinner in my restaurants at least once a week in all of them. So I'd sit there and go, okay, that's what it is. And I don't want to. I would hate to see I mean, things like chervil. I mean, how many times I forget how many bunches of chervil I've seen picked in my time. You never use a whole bunch of chervil. So you see it picked, you see the apprentice picking it, and board beans that have been potted, but you'll see, you finish a dish and there'll be about half a dozen broad beans left over because they haven't put it on. They'll bin the broad beans. I'm like, either eat them or put them on the dish. It's my little things like that. Yeah. But then, the European, that was fantastic. For 11 years I was there.
Did you do the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. So I started...
What a venue. For people who don't know, it's like it's got the night, it's got the restaurant.
It's got a restaurant, it's got the City Wine Shop.
Which is I love City Wine Shop, which is, you can just grab a bottle, you take it away, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Then they've got the middle floor.
Yeah, then there's a supper club upstairs.
And then again, it's a full night out.
Yeah, it's a
full night out,
It's fantastic.
Sit outside on that front near Parliament, it's just beautiful.
So some days you do 500 people. So, and it's like, as I said, like it's got 2 kitchens, or 3 kitchens if you include the supper club kitchen. It was hard work. But you know what? I loved it because there was something going on all the time.
How did you get that gig?
The guy Con, who was he's my partner now. There was a chef there who was working now. I won't name him because he was really full on tough. But I was always known to be tough in the kitchen anyway. But then I'd played golf with Con because golf's my thing. I love it. So
are you good?
I love it. I love the fact that I can go out and play. I played down the coast at a place called the National, which is on the coast there. It's just heaven. It's so you get there and you don't think about work or anything like that. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, and I'll say this now: the people that I've met playing golf have inspired me more in my career than what people who I've met in my career with.
Business guys.
Business guys. People who. A friend of mine, Justin, he's got his own company. He makes tools and spanners and stuff like that. He gives me so much insight into stuff like that. Another guy, friend of mine, Steve, he fixes computers. Or it sounds like he just fixes computers, but he gets like he gets consignments of computers. He fixes them. So my kids have got Apple laptops and all that sort of stuff, and I've got phones and stuff like that. But they give me, they keep me in it grounded because these guys who make a lot of money. But they'll give me advice, and I go, well, yeah, it works for them.
Yeah.
They would never in a million years go into their business and give somebody a scaffing for that. They go, no, you don't do it like that.
Yeah.
And
you know the other thing about them people, I've managed to meet a few as well over in Australia, mainly, and I find that they do the numbers. And it works or it doesn't. Yeah. It's not like a passion thing. Like, no look, I'm going to get involved in this and I'm going to give it everything I've got and I'll get it to work. They're like, computer says no, it's not viable.
Yeah. So
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was working at the Point, and then I'd play golf with him, and he said, "Can I catch up?" I said, "Yeah, sure." He goes, I've got a problem with my chef. Well, how do I deal with it? He said to me. I said, so he drove over to. I remember it. He drove over to the Point on his scooter and said, I've got this problem with my chef. My chef's really mean with people. He's not treating people right. The front of the house are scared to talk to him. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So he said, what would it take to get somebody like you in my kitchen? I said, I said, I'm happy to do it. I said, but this is how I'm going to do it. I said, I don't want you complaining about my hours. Because at that time, I hadn't had any kids. And I'd met Simone, and my partner now, and I was tired of it. I was tired of the same monotony at the Point as I was doing, because it was a grind.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And you get to that stage, and you can just see the level of staff that are coming through. I wasn't getting any great sous chefs. There wasn't anybody there I could go, you know what, fantastic. Like the good people that I had with me for 2 or 3, 4 years, I hadn't got that same level with me, and there were different type of chefs coming through. It's just getting harder and harder. So I said to him, okay, I'd love to do it. So I went to the owners and I said, right, okay, I've had an offer. Do I get a better offer? So it's kind of like, and they went, no way, no, you won't. So I said, okay. And then unluckily, whether or not it's their way of saying it or mine, they said, right, you may as well go now then. So I was like, okay, fine, bang. Out of there, and I started at the European probably 2 weeks later, and then but 11 years, and 11 happy years. I've had some great times there. I've had a few nightmares, but you know what, and the people are fantastic. The staff are fantastic.
Was it hard to? I know You have left. You know.
I've gone here. Yeah. We had a
Yeah.
conversation. They wanted me to do more.
Because you're still involved with
Yeah,
the
they're my
same-
partners
Yeah,
at French Saloon Kirk. So
Yeah.
Con and Josh are my partners there. Con wanted me to do more at the European. So,
and have the. What do you mean? Have the saloon as well? Or-
I have the saloon. So the saloon, French Saloon, Kirk's, and the bar next door, the cellar.
Yeah.
They're mine, and I've got shares in that with Con and Josh, who runs the European. So Con and Josh own the European.
Yeah.
And the City Wine Shop and everything else.
Yeah.
But when I was at the French Saloon, when I was at European, about 4 or 5 years ago, I got a number of consultant jobs where people say, can you come and help me set up my kitchen or help me deal with staff? And I do the races out at Caulfield Cup. So they come to me and say, we want the chef to come and sort out the food at Black Caviar at Caulfield,
Yeah.
which is their so-called fine dining restaurant, and the committee room. So they wanted me to be a consultant. So I took that on, and I do a consultancy up in Ballarat at that time. So for the last 5 years, I've been doing consulting jobs as well.
So sorry to interrupt you there and to cut you off. A consultant job? What is a consultant job? What does that entail?
So, for example, if you were to like when you had Daniel Wilson on, he went to do Merrywell. So the guys that, for example, Caulfield realised there was a guy, the CEO there, Brody, asked me if I'd have a look at the menu there because they had 100 people that were going there for lunch when the races were on, and at that stage the food wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So he'd say, can you improve the food? I'm like, well, yeah, no brainer. So I go, well, off you go. So I took that on as a consultancy, and for 26 race days a year, you go out and you prepare the food.
Oh, you're there?
I'm there. You have to. Part of your contract is you have to be there on the race day.
Yeah.
But then I would get 3 or 4 of my staff who were working at the European to go and do it, and they got paid. And they got paid properly because they got paid by the races. So there's no
hourly. They got the whole thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So they get paid good money to go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, get the money ready, and it was good for them because they wanted to earn more money so they could go. I mean, some of them
travelling or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. So the kids were going overseas.
Everyone wants travelling, don't they?
Yeah,
Over here, I need money for travelling.
Yeah. So those guys. And it worked really well for 3 years, and I'd do the European at night and stuff like that, and I'd fit it around myself. But the last couple of years, I'd only started doing Saturdays at the races because I didn't need to go out there on a Friday and say, because the guys are out there go, well, you know how big the eye fillet's got to be cut, and the carpaccio is the same carpaccio we did 2 years ago, so they know.
They know
it's
what's
standard
going
recipe.
on. Yeah.
So the European wanted me to do more because I was spending more time doing consultancy. And
that was your own business?
Yes, my own company. So my own company does that. So it's a consultant company. Exec chef. So
yeah.
and it paid, essentially, exec chef paid with my missus, paid for French Saloon because we had the money to do it, and it kind of pays for French Saloon Kirk's. So it was there. For the life of me, I don't want to do service anymore, Robbie. I stand there after 35 years of calling dockets, saying how long, can I have the chips at the same time as the steak? Please, give me it at the same time. And when I say please, you can imagine what I'm really thinking.
Yeah,
but for 35 years of cooking a piece of salmon, is it crispy skin? No, it's not. You burnt the skin. You got 35 years of the same thing. And you kind of go, you know what, there's more to life.
Definitely.
And I think my kids got up, it's significant that Cooper is 10, my eldest, and I was 11 years at the point. It's kind of like I had kids when I was at the point, and I did it to sort of have a family and to fit everything else in. And so now I've got a successful restaurant with Kirk's and French Saloon. I've got a successful consulting business, but I did it on my own, and I don't want to be told by anybody, we need you here on a Thursday afternoon. That's not how I work. I don't do that. So I still consult to Caulfield at this time, but it's probably going to finish this year. I've got something else lined up for the next couple of years. That's the thing. I just think maybe coming back to my childhood in Coventry, you just got to go with the punches. You got to go. Well, it is what it is. I came from nothing.
Yeah.
I live in a good house. I've got a brilliant partner, beautiful partner who I love very much. I've got 3 beautiful kids. I thank goodness, God, whoever it is out there that's looking out for me. But it's all come down to hard work,
Yeah,
and
for
also
sure.
and being able to do what I need to do. But I mean, I've travelled the world with cooking.
Yeah.
You know, cooked in the US, cooked in France, cooked in UK. Back there, I've been on the BBC. My mum was proud; she was crying and stuff. I had my own TV show.
Yeah, I want to go a bit more
Yeah,
on
we'll
this
get
on, the,
into
on this
that.
ex-
Yeah.
on this exec shift because I'm really interested in the in that crossover. You know, I'm going through that at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
The truth is, I'm kind of going through that at the moment.
Good.
I love the business, our business, and I plow everything into it. But I definitely recognise that I need a second revenue stream, definitely.
Yep.
And the podcast is one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Is to try and get my name out there and to and make contacts.
You won't make any money out of this,
No,
though, but you'll be able to sell it long term.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Just to get
I
your name
agree
out
with
there and all. Otherwise you just sat there waiting for it to come up. Who knows?
Profile is the thing. So
Yeah.
I say this to everybody. Like I'm not a great cook. Todd is a better cook than me. But I own the restaurant.
Yeah.
The profile is my restaurant needs to be. People need to think about my restaurant when they're walking past it and go, oh yeah, I've heard of that. So that's why we do the Noosa Food and Wine Festival. You get up on stage and you've got to cook for 200 people who they're just sitting there because they've got nothing else to do. So you get up there and you go, okay, this is the whipped cod's roe, or this is the Yarra Valley caviar, or this is the Hiramasa kingfish we're doing. They go, oh, that's great. It looks nice. Thank you very much. See you later. And you go, that's it. So that's that.
Yeah, but when they come down to Melbourne, they might go, oh, there's that Ian. That's
Exactly.
that Ian's restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go on there.
That's it. And people
he was a
go out
nice
and
guy.
he was a nice guy. He was funny, and I've seen him on TV, and that's the thing, profile.
But sorry, again, I'll keep cutting you off. But the exec chef thing with the consultancy. So you've got to be there for a certain day. They'll say, okay, do you have to do the food cost? Do you have to find the suppliers? Do you have to go in and
for the
ensure
most
the
part,
dishes?
you start off like that. So basically, for example, he's not a hero because the guy that runs the one of my jobs is I look after the food at Craig's Royal Hotel.
Yeah.
Now the guy there, John Finning, he renovated Craig's Royal. It's a 41-room hotel. He is founded in 1860. He took over like something that was so run down. He spent like a lifetime's work renovating this place, and it is immaculate, right? The 4-poster beds in every room, L'Occitane in the bathroom. It looks fantastic. And he asked me, because he used to go to the European, he used to like the vibe that we did and the way we did things. And he said, "Can you have a look at the food for us?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll mentor their chef." So we came up, we took Simone up to the hotel, and you could just see the amount of care and love he's got for his hotel. And you go, "Yeah, why not?" And so I've been there, I think 4 or 5 years now. So I mentor their chef. Like, there's no, and you know what it's like. If I came into your business and said, "Hey, Robbie, I don't like your charcuterie," you go, "I don't care."
No, for sure. It's a gradual thing, isn't it?
That's it. So you got to let people trust you enough to go, "I get it. How about you doing it like this?" And it grows from there. It's not like. And the worst thing is when you are doing a consultancy, and I turn down so many because I don't want to do it because I know what's happening. Because I someone to say, "Can you come and fix my business?" The head chef's an idiot, and and you go in and go, "No, it's not for me. I don't want to get involved in that type of thing." But you've got to look at a space and go, "Yeah, I like this. I like the energy that these people are giving me." And to this day, John and his wife Mary, they've put so much money, and also they don't make that much money out of the hotel, but it's just beautiful.
That's great advice.
And you build with people what you want to do. And I've been lucky enough to have a consultancies at the racing club. I've been 5 years. This will be my 5th carnival this year. I've been doing Ballarat for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years. Yes, it's facilitated me getting out of doing service, but it's the natural progression. Nobody wants to see another chef at 55 shouting at an apprentice, and I don't need it. I don't have the patience for it anymore, and I want to see my kids. I've got a 10, 7, and 3-year-old. And I remember a very sad story about people. Of chefs now, luckily now on the iPhones you can look at people and you can see your kids. Before you used to ring them up and wish them good night, and you'd be like, it's heartbreaking for some people. Man. Imagine what it's like for a chef to party who's got 2 kids. He's on $800 a week, and he's got to listen to me say, "Where's the chips? Come on, You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, luckily, I've got the French Saloon, and I can go in there, and those like Todd and the crew in there, Miles and all the guys are in there. They're into it, but that's the progression for them. And my job for them, as is my consultancy, to keep them stimulated enough to go right. In 6 months' time, I get offers for restaurants, and I'll talk to them and go, you want to do this? And they go, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do a hotel kitchen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And as things come and go, it comes and goes. You look at it and go, yeah, that's good.
I like that what you're saying there. Like you go in and you get a feel of the place. Like you're not just money grabbing.
But there's no point, because if you chase and this is something I learnt very early on in the piece. If they can pay you a lot of money for doing something, they're not doing the right thing about their business. Yeah. So I mean, I say to Todd and the crew, I can pay you this. I've got no problem with them if they want to go out and do, like, we used to call them foreigners back in England and all that sort of stuff.
Gubby jobs.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
If they want to go out and do like things like the races or come and work for me up in Ballarat on their days off and stuff like that, I've got no issue with paying them for that. But I can only pay them 5 days a week out of 7, and the other 2 days is ideally their days off.
Yeah.
If they want to earn money, like I had to earn money when I was in London and work 2 jobs, that's what happens. And that's the thing. Consulting, all it is, you're doing 3 or 4 different jobs.
Yeah.
So towards the end of it, it's like towards the end of the European, I couldn't do any more there for them, and they realised. I mean, they would have, like, if I'd have carried on, they would have probably sacked me anyway. But the reality of it is, like,
because you were doing less and less.
Yeah. And also, I don't want to. It's not. I want to see my kids.
Yeah.
And
of course.
And if I'm getting paid the same to do a consultancy job where I'm hands on maybe 1 day a week as opposed to doing 50 hours a week at somewhere, then it's my right to want to do that.
Yeah.
And I built my profile. I didn't go to a public relations expert to build my profile, and I didn't do books where I'm like sort of swanning around. I don't do Dancing with the Stars or anything like that to do that sort of stuff. But I built it on the fact that I've made my own decisions, and
hard work.
Hard work, and also coming from my background.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky to choose wisely when it comes to my missus, and she's beautiful. I love her to death. But I look at it and go, well, this is the life I chose. I don't want to be dictated to by somebody else. If someone says to me, you need to be here every Friday and Saturday night, and I go, well, no, I don't. No, I don't need to be. But that's why I train the sous chefs. And towards the last, you look at things differently. It's a different perspective as opposed to people go, I had a great butcher there, Simon. He's fantastic, amazing. He did all the meat thing. I put him in that position. So I'd wander around. Everybody okay? Yep, good. All right, good. Check my emails, wander around, have coffee, chat to somebody. That was my job.
But people might think, that looks, he's not doing anything. But put all these pieces in place.
Hospitality is all about people.
Yeah,
there's no difference as opposed
to. Look, everyone's getting on. Yeah. There's no one fighting each other. Yeah. All the GP's good. Yeah. All the it's not by accident.
No,
that's not.
And restaurants have changed. Like 10 years ago, it would be you and your missus could open a restaurant. You do the BYO. You could do the books yourself. Now with BAS and all that sort of stuff and all that, you need accountants, you need people saying you should be making more money. But in restaurants, you can't make more money if you're competing with Tipo or Embla or whoever it is.
They're all along your way, aren't they? Yeah.
And they're all around there, and you're offering a product. All it is for people. Nothing makes me happier than they say, the front of house staff were really onto it last night.
Yeah,
They're good people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We employ good people. And to have good people in your kitchen and in your restaurant, you've got to treat them well. Yeah. You've got to treat them with the respect that you would expect for them to give to you. Of course, the odd one's going to sneak through, but also the same in the kitchen. If you get a dickhead in the kitchen, it's going to create more problems.
Definitely.
Let's get rid of them early.
Straight away. Yeah.
And I would say now that the person that I was at places like The Point or Rhubarb, yes, a good cook, not a good boss. Yeah. Now I'm a better boss, because I understand it a whole lot more. And also, when you got a lot of money on the line at your own restaurant, your whole perception of everything changes.
Yeah. It's a hard game, Ian. Yeah. It's a hard game. And
I don't see the point of me standing in a kitchen, like cooking another steak and putting it on the plate, going, well, look at me, guys. I'm drawing a wage. I would much rather spend time out at Ballarat listening to somebody like John teaching me. He teaches me business advice, like I was saying about Steve and Justin before. And I get more out of that than saying, wow, look at me. I did this whipped cod's roe and I shaved some Bataga over it. What a wonderful human I am. It's not about that at all. It's more about interacting with people, and they'll turn around and say, okay, both Justin, John, all those people have been in my restaurant. They go, yeah, it's good. Nothing makes me happier than they've been in my restaurant.
Yeah.
I very rarely get people complaining about going into French Saloon or even Kirk's, because it knows where it is in the scheme of things.
The market, yeah.
It doesn't go out there to do. We're not fermenting anything and all that sort of stuff, which is great for those other places that are. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
So we know what we are, and our benchmark is, and how we are, and that's where we stick to.
I think that's really important, like what you're saying there. You've got to know where you are in the market. You've really got to know where. And anyone that is thinking about starting a business, like, it's really tough, but you've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to know where you are in the market.
You'll like this story. Like, we get approached by all the time. Like, people want to put like stuff on the menu. Go, oh, how about you using this? And so I'd say to Todd about barramundi. I said, why have we got barramundi on the menu? Because it's not one of my favourite fish, I must admit. Yeah. So I said, why have we got barramundi on the menu? There's no barramundi swimming down the Seine in Paris. I said, they don't do it. I said, it's a French saloon. The name should have given it away. And he's like, okay, I get it. All right. So sure enough, about 6 weeks ago, and I'll all be going on to it, I said, it says the French Saloon. I said, it's not the Cairns Saloon, it's the French Saloon. You get that? And he's like, yeah, I get it. I keep going on to him about it. So, of course, 6 weeks ago, as an owner, the people from Humpty Doo come in and said, will you put the barramundi on the menu? I said, no, I don't want to do it. They go, no, we'll give you a really good price. So I said to Todd, I ring Todd up, I said, why haven't we got barramundi on the menu? And he's like, what? Oh, what am I listening to here? But you got to have it. You got to have the laugh like that. But
exactly.
But it's not on the menu. But then, I said, and that's the thing. You got to treat your staff how you want to be treated.
Definitely.
But you know what? In our industry, you learn pretty quickly. You're going to get shafted. You're going to get ripped off. You're going to get people who, you turn up for work on a Monday and they've replaced you. That's a classic. You walk in and go, who's that? Like, oh yeah, I need to see you in the office. No, who's that guy there? He's got his name on his jacket. What's he doing there? And you go, I worked at a place here in Melbourne at Montel, but I remember walking in this one Monday morning.
Did that happen to you?
Yeah. It's happened twice to me now. So you walk in, and I was working with a guy called Harry Lulle, who works. He's fantastic, Harry. But then I was chef and he was sous chef at this place in Montel. But and this guy had replaced everybody. We knew it was going to happen at some stage, but we turned up this one Monday morning, and then they go, oh, there's a new chef in there. So we go in, as you do, you pick up your knives, and I think either Harry or myself have thrown salt in the stock or run our fingers through the brulee and the lemon tart that's in the thing, and in the end it was like, it's funny. But that's the industry. They were the bad old days, but that was before the point and all that sort of stuff. So
it's hard though. It's hard to get screwed. But you also do a lot of charity, heaps of charity, right?
Yeah, I think I don't get off on it, but I believe that you reap what you sow. And also, Simone, my partner, she will say to me all the time, things happen for a reason. So when I've always worked with ovarian cancer, or like I enjoy working with St. Vincent de Paul and stuff like that, and also teaching, like over at Osnam House, teaching people how to cook, and who are like ex-drug addicts or alcoholics or whatever, just to give them that sort of, just give them a bit of a leg up. You don't have to give them money. I mean, I don't give people money on the street. So here's my thing: I don't give anybody money on the street, but I will help it. If you said to me, you ring me up and say, Curls, I need $100. I'll say, all right, fine. Are you going to give it me back? Probably not, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd want it to come back. So, I mean, I don't want Matt Wilkinson always start ringing me up now and going, give me some money. That's not what it's about. But I don't want to give it, I wouldn't give a beggar on the street money, because I don't think it should be like that. But I think you could give back. I think you can do something. Like we're doing a charity cook-off soon, to raise money for kids in India and all that sort of stuff, and all that sort of stuff. I like having the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
If I can fit that in,
You'll do it.
Yeah.
And that thing about you're saying about teaching alcoholics and drug addicts and that, what's that one called?
That was when I was working for St. Vincent. We used to go over to a little house in Fitzroy, and it was funny because there were 12 guys who were like not locked in. They could go in and out, but they would get tested. St. Vinny's used to look out for them. So it was like a halfway house. So if they did their time there, they could go on the housing list and they could go out and do it. But they would get tested every day for no drugs, no alcohol. So I'd go over there and they'd sit around a big table, a bit like this one here. Yeah. And I'd make a risotto with all the stuff that was in their fridge and stuff like that. And I honestly, you'd make an omelette, they'd eat it, like 3 of them would still be detoxing and go. They wouldn't even talk to you. They were like zombies. 2 of them would go, yeah, that was okay. 3 of them would talk your ears off because, hey, how you going, all that sort of stuff. 2 of them would ask you for a job, and then there'd be one of them who was like, you kind of go, yeah, I didn't like it. You go, what? What do you mean you didn't like it? No, I didn't like it. And I'm like, what? So you have this, and if your skin's thick enough to take it. And I loved it. I thought it was great. And I got... Judy Crow from Western Plains Pork, she gave us, she still gives them, product now that they can use and stuff like that. And I just love that sort of stuff. And that perpetuates.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, I couldn't. What about fun. Jamie? Did you do some stuff?
I was Jamie's ambassador here for the Good Foundation, which is the thing that they set up there to do Jamie's meals and stuff like that. Nice guy, full of good intentions. The only thing there, it kind of gets hijacked a bit with media and stuff like that. So you turn around and you go, right, Jamie's Ministry of Food's coming to Sydney. So up you go, you flop up to Sydney, you're doing a cooking thing and you do his little burger recipe and they think Jamie's coming. Because at no stage do they turn around and go, well, we couldn't get Jamie, Curley's going to step in. So they all turn up going...
Where is he?
Where is the cheeky chappie? And then they get Curley from Coventry. You go, oh, God.
It's close,
So he's the CC cheeky chappie. I'm Curley from Coventry. And they go, oh, we want Jamie. So you're there going, oh, God. And I go,
bit cringy.
I could talk like him, can't I? I go, and I can't ride a scooter. So they go... And they go, no. Was
it a bit cringy, though?
You're kind of like out there and you're teaching people, like, this is supposed to be healthy in the way you're doing it. Now, in my one mind, I think, yep, this is a great idea. This is fantastic. Yeah. On the other hand, I walk through some of the supermarkets and I see the magazines and I see what's on the front of the magazines and it's being endorsed by Jamie. I think maybe that's not quite as healthy as it should be. So you kind of like you're at that
tipping point kind of thing.
So you kind of go, well, you know what? So I kind of don't do them anymore. Yeah. But it's more the fact that now with international stuff, like I've done a couple of things now in India and a couple in China, so that's been good fun, you know.
And what about the battle, Soldier On?
Oh, Soldier On! No, so they're they're returned servicemen who have come back from, they're over there in a war and stuff like that, and they get back. Of course, they've been soldiers their whole life. Yeah. So what do you do when you got no leg and arm anymore? I did a dinner up in Queensland last year, and it was the British soldiers playing the Aussie soldiers at golf, and it's amazing. You'll see a British soldier, and these are guys that have been like Afghanistan, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they've been there.
20 years ago, they've lost an arm and a leg, and all that. And these are all Scotty from the first Fusiliers of the Scottish Guards, and you can see that they've had a hard life and stuff like that.
You can look into people's eyes like that. Yeah. They've seen shit that you can only...
That's right. And then you look at it and you kind of go, right. And then they were playing golf, and it's like we were up in Noosa, we cooked a dinner, it's just beautiful. And then you see these guys, and the camaraderie, because they've all been in that situation. Yeah. They've all been under fire, and you think... They've been in places that there's no... I mean, you think when you're on a Saturday night and you're getting it, you're copping it, and you think this is tough, and you see people crying all the time and all that. You think it's a bit different when you got somebody who like trying to kill you.
And if it all capture you and chop your head off.
That's it. And then you see these guys who are like, honest to God, they physically take their legs off and leave them next to the table where they're having a beer, and you're sitting there talking to them, and you go, oh, so that's something you don't see every day, isn't it?
Exactly.
So we were at the golf thing, playing golf with them, and then we cooking the dinner. And then honestly, you got the legs off, and they've got the golf shoes on these artificial legs, and they put a new pair of legs on with the trainers on. You go, wow, that puts it in perspective.
But they were great. It's coming out.
Yeah, Invictus is coming next year.
Prince Harry, Prince Harry, he's like a big part of all that, isn't it?
And also he's doing that next year, so that'll be fantastic. But you you could end up doing do good for everybody for 365 days a year. So that we choose now what it is. And the only reason I got given the TV show was because of my Conviction Kitchen was because of the charity work I'd done, and I'd been doing these things. And somebody had said to the producer, "You should have a look at this guy. He's tough, but he kind of like gets it."
Yeah.
So, and luckily, that worked out really well for me.
It was a good show.
Yeah, it was good fun. But I mean, obviously, it was based on a Canadian one.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there's a Canadian one, but it's he took these convicts to a farm and they killed a sheep and all that, and then they gave me the video of it or the CDs of it back then to have a look at it and they go, right, so this is what it's based on. Can you go and have a look at it? So I looked at it and I rang them and said, I ain't killing no sheep, So they go, no. So it was like gentrified, but it was good.
Yeah,
but originally at one stage I wasn't going to do it because I was thinking, it's reality TV. The MasterChef thing was done. I'd done a couple of like guest judging on MasterChef and all that sort of stuff, and I thought, oh no, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that. Oh God, this is horrible.
Bit cringy. Yeah.
So And I was playing golf with a guy called John Van Morbida who ran Lavazza at that stage. He's got like a big company, and he gave me the advice. He said, "You'd be stupid to turn it down." He said, "It's television." He said, "If you were to put the dollars thing," he goes, "it's worth millions of dollars." He said, "Because you being on television, that's money, that is marketing. That's all it is." He goes, "Basically, television shows." All they are is to fill in the gaps between the adverts.
Yeah.
He goes, you're filling in the gaps. To you is your brand, is Ian Curley brand, which has helped me now later on in life.
Yeah.
He said, it's worth a lot of money to you. So in the end, I went, okay, I'll do it. And luckily, it came out. I had a lot of control menu-wise of what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just do pizzas and go, but do a burger and shout at them.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I'm not going to be that guy in the kitchen. I got to choose my own sous chef, who's a good friend of mine, and he's fantastic. And we had good fun doing it.
You shoot yourself. Do you feel like you shoot yourself? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I started the first day. It took me about half an hour to realise because when they started filming, I for some reason I didn't think they were filming. They said, "All right, so we're going to start on this date," and off we go. So we sat down in the supper club up at the European, and they said, "Right, okay, so just tell us your name." So I'll go, "My name is Ian Curley," and they go, "Okay, right." I go, "What?" They go, "Do it again." So honestly, after about an hour, they go, "Listen, you're not Ray Winston. Stop thinking you're Ray Winston." Because I was like, "Oh, my name's Ian Curley," and all that. And after a while, they go, "You can't put it on. Because you'll get found out really quickly."
Yeah.
So whatever you try to be on television, you might get away with it for half a show or a whole show. But if you're doing an 8-series episode or whatever it is, or 8 episodes in a series, they're going to find out. So, and also, I was much more comfortable in the kitchen. The worst part is when you're walking around and they're going, "Right, we want you to walk from the train station or the airport to the taxi." You kind of go, "Okay." So you think you can do that, but then you walk around looking at the sky to go, "Can you stop looking at the sky?" And then or somebody attractive walks past, you look at it and go, whatever. Well, why have you got sunglasses on? I'm like, it's sunny. You can't see your eyes. Take the sunglasses off. You kind of go, well, so you know. So I did it. They looked after me, and I got some good advice from an agent back then. He said, now, when they want you, a TV series or the channel, they will do anything for you. They'll fly you up and down the country and all that. He said, when they want you, that's your time to go in and say, I want this, this and this. He said, after it's done, they won't even return your phone call. I said, really? He goes, you'll see. So we did the TV thing, and like you said, he went, okay. They said, thanks very much, it's in a can. I said, are we having a wrap party? No, you can have a drink over at the pub. We're done, see ya, bye. I was like, wow. Everybody went, whoosh, off. Everybody went, you went, oh, okay.
And that was it?
That was it. See you later. And there was talk about doing another one, and I said, well, that'll be fun if we can do it in Melbourne. They go, oh, no, we wouldn't get it in Melbourne because there's no way you'd have access to the criminals and all that sort of stuff, and it was a different type of thing. So I'm like...
Criminals aren't good enough in Melbourne.
Well, you don't get the access to what they've done. And in the end, I was like, I don't want to travel that much anymore. And the problem is the travel is the thing. That with consulting... They'll say to you, because I'm up in Sydney and back Brisbane and Canberra now and all that sort of stuff, you got to go, right, I'm on the road. you miss the kids that way. But it's either that or you stand in the kitchen and give it to somebody, and you can't. It's not. We were away this year on holiday, and we were in the kids club in Thailand, and my eldest daughter was like, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "Table tennis table," and she goes, "Can we play?" So we started playing it. Obviously, she's hopeless, so she'll listen to us and go, "Wasn't that?"
She's a beginner.
Yeah, but she was doing it all wrong. I'm like, "Coops, what are you doing?" She's like, "Well, I said, we've got a table tennis table at home. We just don't use it." She goes, "Really?" So we play now, like once a day. And it's amazing how much more she gravitates to me now, right? Because we've got this one-on-one thing.
Thing.
Yeah. And the middle one doesn't do it with me. And we've got to find something for the middle one. And the 3-year-old's like, she's just a rampant Hell's Angel. But it's that thing now with my eldest daughter, Cooper, who's 10. We have this daddy and me time that I see it now, and my missus will say to me, she said she asks about you when you're not there. Like before, I'm at work. Oh, he's at work. She'll say, "When's Daddy coming home?" Or when can we catch up and all that sort of stuff, you know. Yeah. And it's that's the stuff you don't replace. You can never replace that one-on-one stuff. And even this Father's Day, I got a card off them all, and they're saying, "Thank you for teaching us to play table tennis," and because I got an electric scooter that my mate got me, and then she goes out and that. She's like, it's just those things that you kind of go, that's what it's about. It's not doing 400 for dinner and saying, look at me, I'm amazing. Definitely. And all that. No, it's the kids that you turn around, and if you can teach those to be good humans, that is essentially you've succeeded.
That's your legacy.
That's it.
Honestly, I couldn't. That's exactly right. Yeah. All them achievements in the kitchens and this, that, the other. But I couldn't agree with you more. To have a good relationship with your child and to create a good human who cares for other people, who understands, empathetic, all these kind of good morals. That's who you. That's just an. That's who you are, and that's your. I couldn't agree more. I totally agree on that 100%.
I don't want you to grow up like me. I said, I want you to have the opportunity to be able to go, you know what, I can't get a job. I want you to be able to say, I've got a choice of jobs. This is what I want to do. I said, if you don't want to be doctors, lawyers, nurses, as long as they're not working as a chef in a kitchen, because I've got 3 daughters, and I don't care what anybody says about the equal opportunities, not the same. I was out at dinner last night. There was a seafood dinner, and there was like 24 chefs last night, not one female there. Oh, there's a blogger. And they go, and you look at it and go, our industry's still so far behind.
Yeah.
But then, as I said to the person there, we've got good female chefs out there.
There's amazing.
But they're not going to go, oh, I'd love to go for dinner with 24 other guys. They're going to go, you know what? No way.
Yeah, I'll just go home.
Yeah.
We have some fantastic female chefs. I've worked some of the best chefs I've worked for, and I love having female chefs.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap this up. I've got a few quick questions.
Good.
Chelsea or QPR?
Chelsea, 100%. I'm a Chelsea supporter. Look at the football there. Yeah. Always love it. Since my thing was the guy who used to play for me, Ian Hutchinson. I used to think I was Ian Hutchinson.
Did you?
I used to have a big
how long you followed him
for?
Ever?
Oh, forever. Since 1968, 69, 70 when we won the FA Cup against Leeds. Yeah. So I remember Ian Hutchinson scored the equaliser. So it's big long throw in. Played number 10. I used to think I was Ian Hutchinson. Yeah.
Same name.
Never Coventry.
No. Rude Huller, I used to love watching. I thought he was class.
Zola was the thing, but but classic of classics. And there's the thing about management. A classic, somebody we would love and revere. Zola gets to be our manager, gets treated like an imbecile. Good advert there for chef de parties and sous chefs. Not being head chef is not always a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Pickled eggs or jellied eel?
I think pickled eggs, just for the simple fact, jellied eel was always like London wide boy type thing, and I could never get my head in. I can't do jelly. I don't understand the whole.
Even in pork pies, don't like it.
Oh yeah, that's okay, but then you kind of anything wrapped in pastry and breadcrumbs is fantastic. Yeah. But jellied eel, I could never do it. I think pickled eggs, just for the simple fact, jelly, it's like aspic. It's like gives me goosebumps thinking about aspic when I was at school, just to drive me insane.
Mash or chips?
Oh, it's a hard one because I only do fresh potatoes. I don't do frozen chips, so I'd have to say chips because it's my thing about. I think it sends a message out to the restaurant of what you're doing. If you serve frozen French fries, It's too easy. Open the bag, throw it in the
Skin
fire.
on or skin off when you do your
You've got to
chips?
skin on. You've got to have skin on,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Well, I'm from Coventry. This is proper, mate.
Yeah,
You know?
I love it with the skin on.
Oh.
I don't know. It's much better.
I
Much
have
better.
this ongoing love affair with the potato, and also the ones I get up in Ballarat at Craig's Royal. I reckon they're the best potatoes in the country. Amazing.
Do you know Jonesy's?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Their Blue Moons
Yeah.
are. There was honestly for me. Everyone's got their own favourites, and I'm not knocking your one or whatever.
No.
But them Blue Moons from Jonesy's are just off the. For me, just off the chart.
I love
a good potato is something special, man.
Oh well, you sit there and I could sit there with a plate of chips and like malt vinegar, and it
Sarsens.
it just gives me so many memories of me as a kid and wet newspaper and going to the chippy and the scratchings that I used to go in there. And I go, that's it. And people go, oh, you're old. I say, but no, you don't understand. You'd listen to there's songs that you listen to, and it's the memories of food gives you the memories. And you sit there, and I can remember having bone marrow salad with Fergus. I remember eating turbot and black pudding with Mitch Tonks, and I think to myself, yeah, these are special moments. There are special moments that you have. It's like you remember. I remember having dinner at D'Estasio when I met Simone, and it was like just incredible. And you kind of go, "That's fantastic."
Talking about black pudding, turbot and black pudding. We had the black pudding last night. It was. You know what? It tasted. And this is the positive, by the way. And it tasted like a butcher's shop.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we make our own, so we're lucky.
It was. It was very like. We make one as well.
Yeah.
But I was a bit more moussey,
Yeah.
no cream, but just a bit more fruity, a bit more sweet.
Well,
and I do get criticised a little bit for that, but I love it.
One of my things when I first came over here, I made black pudding at Rhubarb's, and I used to do so much apple and stuff through it, and I used to make it.
We do it with raisin, with sultanas.
I normally do it with apple and stuff, and we started making it, and it was the first time in the Good Food Guide. Myself and one of my best friends, Andrew Blake, he had Blake's down at Southgate.
He's got the outside caterers.
Blake is good. He's been my best friend forever. We play golf every week, and we argue about everything. It's fantastic, like two old men. So we were going for. The Good Food Guide was coming out, and I had Rhubarb's at that time, and he had Blake's, and we'd been in everything. We'd been got great reviews, the whole thing. So we're thinking, right, this is going to be. I'm finally going to get a best new restaurant or a hat and all that. Both of us got shafted. And in the review, Rita Ehrlich writes, another casual bistro making their own black pudding, and I was like, we were killing the pig to get the blood. And I'm like, what would she know? And then years later, I did a dinner at Circa, and she was the MC in the compare, and I just gave to her, just very subtly, on that. I remember this review, and I got the review, and I read it to her, and she was like looking at me going, oh God. So, and I sort of got her humiliated her in front of everybody at Circa. It was good. So, but, I love black pudding. I love the thing. There's technique to it. There's a great technique to it. That's the thing. There is a technique to simple food. For sure. But you've got to look at it and go, there's something about choosing good quality beef and going, this. You're not going to get anything out of rubbish. You've got to have a good quality steak, go, that's quality. Love it.
It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. Cup of tea or a cup of coffee?
I'd say a coffee in the morning, but I'll have one in the morning and then a cup of tea in the afternoon. But occasionally, it depends. If I'm lagging behind a bit, meetings is always coffee because it kind of like it sets the benchmark. Cup of tea kind of sends a strange message. For some reason, I always think that they've got one over on me. If everybody's having a coffee and I go, I'll have an English breakfast, they go, what? So I know. I think it's a throwback to my Britishness.
Roast beef or roast chicken?
Ooh, see, I'm a roast. We do a roast chicken at the French Saloon. I reckon it's the best and fantastic. I love the crispy skin of it. I love the sharing part of it. I'd have to say the roast chicken that they do at the French Saloon. What chickens do you use? Todd gets them. Okay. I'm not going to name the name because they don't do anything for me. But what I am going to say is, like, for example, Aura King and Hiramasa, they look after it. If I do a charity function,
they'll hook you up.
Oh yeah, they'll say, okay,
how much you want?
We'll give you 2 or 3 fish or whatever. They help me out that way. Yeah. I wouldn't say I don't do anything for nothing. But I don't see the point of me putting a label on a menu for someone to expose, for them to be great. They should get some love. but I get it by putting it on the menu. If I do the right thing and look after their product, then I don't believe if I'm not getting paid for it, they should get paid either.
Yeah, no,
and people go, but I'll say, and wherever I do it, if I'm doing a charity event for 400 or like I'm doing a curry cook-off with one of the MasterChef contestants, I'll say to the people...
the winner.
Yeah, Diana Chan. I'm doing a thing against... We're going to do something with her. But I'm going to say to all my fish or meat suppliers, if you want your thing on there, you've got to give me the fish. It's charity. So if they go, no, thanks, that's up to them. Yeah.
Business till the end.
Well, you know what? It is what it is. And I don't see why...
No, I get it.
I don't, and I'm a small restaurant. It's not like I'm the guys know that if I'm doing something here at French Saloon, it's going to be on at Caulfield for 400 or 500. They get how it goes. I mean, one hand washes the other.
Yeah.
I give them the opportunity. I don't steal from people, so that's it.
I get it. And then if anyone does want to come and see you at the French Saloon, you maybe won't be there. You're around.
I'm probably having lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
And sitting arguing with Todd or my downstairs cook Suki.
What's the address?
Corner Hardware Lane, Little Burke Street.
Beautiful. And social medias?
Yeah, it's on there.
You'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find it. And like Chef Ian Curley, all the Instagram, which I don't know what I'm doing. So I keep pressing the wrong button and I end up like sending a photo of something to somebody. I'm like, how did that happen? And I get all these things going, you've sent me a photo of a girl with a coffee cup. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
That's all right.
But I love it. And I've been very lucky. And the industry and my job has given me plenty to... I look at my girls and go, wow, Yeah,
and family. Obviously, just by talking, the family's a big thing now for you.
That's it. You can't do anything else. Like last night, honestly, I sat there at this dinner, and it was a fish dinner, and it was great. It was up Bertuso, and Alejandro cooked great food. But I was sitting there thinking, I'm missing out on my table tennis with Cooper or riding around the little scooter and stuff like that, and seeing the little one that's 3 years old, and you think, I'm not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to go, well, if you can turn them into humans that go, okay, they did the right thing, and hopefully they'll remember you. Like, I remember certain things about my dad and my mum. Like, my mum, she worked so hard and she's so battled all of her whole life, kept us clean, did the right thing. My dad, he was a bus driver. They got divorced early. He went on and married different women and all that sort of stuff. There's so many things you can delve into it, but you kind of go, I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that guy. That's not what it's about for me. As a father, you take your responsibilities, and also the same as a business owner. Yeah. It should be one of those things. You're not allowed to just walk away from a business without paying your rent. You should pay your dues.
Yeah, I get it. And honestly, I really, again, 22. I was 22 years, not as much as you're 35. 22 years in the kitchen. My son come, and overnight I just dropped that and started this because I think it's more important. Yeah, that's the reality. I think being home on a night is the most important thing.
And I love it to death.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
I'm very, very, very lucky that they, I mean, obviously people's circumstance. I mean, we work hard, but you get to a certain point, you go. That was the thing. I didn't need the European at that time to be doing what they wanted me to do. And I had enough to be able to go, you know what, I'll let somebody else do it. And it was, we walk away. I had dinner I speak to my partners obviously every other day, and, we argue about costs of goods and food costs. And, I say, the chef needs to pay a rise, but it is what it is.
Well, thank you. Listen, I'm going to wrap this up, and thank you very much for your time. I most appreciate it. And for everything you've done for the industry, and I'm sure you've done so much for so many chefs, and you shouted out to me, and you've been nothing but great, helpful and all the rest of it.
And ongoing, it'll be. The good thing is that now that it'll be good. We'll do lots of business together.
I hope so. Good fun. Yeah, and honestly, again, thanks for your time, and nothing but the luck with everything, and good luck for everything.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you very much, mate. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please tell a friend or give us a rating or review on your podcast app. It all helps to get more listeners. Thanks. Until next week, have a good one.